Hello everyone, I'm Driftwood, and in this video we're going to learn how to create an enemy in GameMaker Studio 2 and how to make collision with that enemy, and if he hits the player he's going to die, and if we shoot him with our bullets the enemy is going to die. So in the last episode we learned how to make our player, and we learned how to move around with the keyboard, and we learned how to make our left mouse button fire these bullets in like a spray of a Gatling gun. But the problem is we have nothing to shoot, and sort of unentertaining after a few minutes to move around and shoot bullets. So let's make our enemy. So jumping into it, we're going to need, as we learned in the last episode, a sprite for the enemy object. So let's create a new sprite. And we're going with the 16 by 16. Since we're maintaining aspect ratio, we can just change the width and hit enter, and it'll go 16 to 16. Let's change the sprite to match up our naming convention. We're going to call this SPR underscore, we'll change it later, we'll call it enemy for now, SPR underscore enemy. Let's go ahead and use the let's use control and middle mouse button and scroll in. You can also just click with middle mouse button and move around. We're going to set our origin to the middle center, or we can just hit 8 right there. Now let's go ahead and edit this enemy. We're going to do something similar to the way we made our player, right? We're going to do some boxes, and this time instead of blue we're going to go with like a red color. So let's do a red box, and then we'll double click right here and change the saturation down and the value down and the hue up. Create another box, and we'll do the same thing, saturation down, hue up, value down. Create another third box. Inside here, let's go ahead and get like maybe a darker color. Let's go value way down, and then maybe more saturation, and we'll create like a circle. We'll just go like this and make a circle, and we'll do the same thing we did with the player. We'll make some animation just arbitrarily. So let's go ahead and click on add a new layer. We'll select that layer. We're going to click on the frame that we're on. We're going to press Control C, and we're going to create 8 frames. So we've got 8 frames of animation there. Now we're going to hit this play and animate button so that it's cycling through the frames. It doesn't look like there's changing because right now they all look the same. But let's go ahead and take like maybe this gray color, but let's turn the value up a little bit so it's sort of like a pinkish color. We're going to select our draw tool with 1 pixel. And this time, instead of doing to the left circles, we'll do right circles. Or actually, how should we do this? We could just have it looking different. Let's make this one, instead of circles, let's make this one where it's going outward. So we're just going to left click and draw while it's animating, and it'll create our animation for us. There we go. One for up and one for down. There we go. Now we've got some sort of simple animation. We'll go ahead and pause that, and we'll hit X, and we'll see it'll automatically save in the top right there. Saving that help file is super useful. Go back to our workspace. Now that we've got our animation here, we can see we've got our basic enemy sprite, but we don't have our enemy yet. So let's close that down. We'll go ahead on the objects, right click, and create a new object. Call this one obj underscore enemy. And we're going to assign that sprite we just created to this by clicking on those 3 dots and clicking on the sprite we just created. And that should be it for our basic enemy. If we wanted to add this enemy to our map, we'll go ahead and scroll over to our map tab. If that's not open, you could always double click on the rooms where you have your map. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and rename room 0. We'll just hit F2 on it, or right click and rename, and we'll call it RM underscore start. This is the map we're going to start on. Did that actually rename? RM underscore start. I wonder why that's not changing. Rename RM. We'll say RM underscore 01. I guess RM underscore start is something used for predefined things, so we can't use RM underscore start, but we'll use RM for room, and we'll just call it 01, so the level 1, and now we'll go back into that room, And we have to pick the layer. Once again, I'm scrolling with the middle mouse button. I can click and hold and move it around, and hold control and zoom in and out. If I zoom in and out with the mouse button without control, I scroll up and down. But if I hold control, I can zoom in. So we've got full control of what we're looking at on the map by scrolling up and down, in and out, and just moving it around. So now that we've got that in our view, we got to decide what layer on this map do we want the enemy to appear. Well, probably the same layer as the player, right? So the instance layer is where we have our object player, and if you're not sure what layer you put your other objects on, when you select a layer, it'll give you a list of properties for that layer. In the case of an instance layer where objects go, it'll show you all the objects on that layer. You can see we have one object player with its unique instance ID, and on the bullet layer we have nothing, but as we're shooting, this layer is getting populated with all of those bullets that are being destroyed once they leave the outside of the room. So let's go to the instance layer and click on our resources and left click and drag this enemy, and matter of fact we can hold down Alt and we can put a bunch of enemies, right? Wow, lots of enemies. So if we were to play this, those enemies would animate on the map, but they got no brain, right? They're just gonna sit there and they're not gonna do anything. And a matter of fact, they're actually still very, very small sprite, right? So we need to increase the size of those sprites. So let's go ahead and give these enemies a brain and some code. So we'll double click on object enemy and we'll add a create event. So what all do we want to do? We want to make it bigger, right? So we learned that image underscore x scale equals, let's say 3 instead of 4, and we'll say image underscore y scale equals 3. So they're slightly smaller than the player. We want to give it probably some HP counter, right? So we'll say we can create our own variables. We'll say HP equals 100. But what we can do, right now it seems redundant if we go max HP equals 100. It seems redundant if we do that, but if we go like this, max HP, which still kind of seems redundant, right now that is just going to set your HP of the enemy to its max HP, but this is going to let us control the enemy's max HP from another object, like say we wanted to go object underscore enemy dot max HP equals something something, right? Like you can create it, you can increase it, like say you want to make level 2 where the enemies have a little bit more HP. You can do this on another object, you know, maybe your status object or your leveler object that increases the HP of all the enemies. So that means we're going to be able to level up all our enemies like that by changing our max HP. We could still do that with HP, but let's keep it simple and let's just go ahead and go like that for now. Max HP is 100 and we're going to set our HP to our max HP. So we're declaring two new variables for this object, max HP and HP, and we're saying our HP is at full at the beginning. Cool, simple enough, right? So what else do we need to do? Well, we kind of need to set how fast the enemies are going to go. We could use speed, right, the built-in one, but I don't want to do that with this because then they're just going to move in that direction if we give them a direction. We want to make our own speed, and we already learned how to use speed on the bullets, the built-in function. So let's learn how to create our own speed. So we'll just create our own speed. Very, very common to go SPD for this. And we'll say, instead of just giving the enemy like a speed of 1 or 2 or whatever, we can give them a random speed. That way when you're dodging enemies going around in a loop, they don't all clump up into one spot and you know, because they have the same speed and they'll always take the path of direct line to the player. Eventually they'll all coalesce on one spot and you won't really be able to see how many enemies there are. So we want to create like a random value. Like we want to give it like a range of how fast it can move, but we don't want them all to move the same. So there's a very easy way to do that. We're going to say max. This is going to take a number of arguments, but it's going to always pick the highest number in all of these arguments. So we're going to say 0.5, so it's going to go at least 0.5, but then we're going to say random. This is another uh, function that's going to return a number from 0 in anywhere as a float value up to whatever number you want. So let's say 1.5. Or let's just say, you know what, let's just make it simple. Let's go 2. Let's go from 1 to 2. So this function right here, this we're setting the value of speed to the function of math, which has a function of random in it. So basically, speed is always going to be between 1 and 2. And it'll be like 1.755, 1.3987, 1.1, 1.9, anywhere in there. And it'll just give you like a 5-digit float value. So that's going to make all of our enemies have different speeds. And you'll see variances in between them. Some of them will be up to twice as fast as the other ones. So that'll make a little bit of extra challenge. So that's probably good for the create phase. Now, on the create event. So this event, all of this is going to happen as soon as it's created. It's going to set its values. It's going to say, you've got 100 HP, you're going to go at this speed, and you're going to be this size right at the beginning. But we need to do something else to make it move. In order for it to really move, we need to add a new step. So we're going to say add event step. And once again, the step is going to check every frame of the game, not real frame, not a real FPS, but frame of the game. So 60 times every second it's going to check this. So we need to do a few things actually. We need to see if it's going to collide with the player. We need to make it move towards the player. We need to make sure that if its HP is less than or equal to 0, it dies. So let's start off with making a conditional statement. Let's say if the instance exists, if the player is here, object player. So if the object player is on the map, then we want to do this. And what do we want it to do? Well, we need it to move towards the player, so there's actually a function for that. Move towards point. Moves towards point. And we need to give it some values. Let's see, which values do we need? We need to give it an X, a Y, and a speed. So that's going to be... okay, we're telling it to move towards a point. Where do we want it to go? Well, we want it to go to the object player's X. So we can reference a variable, inside another event, as long as it's not a local variable. Another object, I mean. We could reference a value that's stored in a variable in another object, stay with me, by referencing that object before we give it the variable we're looking for. So by looking for the X of the player, we can type object underscore player dot X. And the same thing if we wanted to look for its HP, or if we've set that value, we can look for any value stored in the player by doing this dot that. Cool. And then we're going to do the same thing for the Y. Object underscore player dot Y. So this is where we're telling it to move. So wherever the player's X location and Y location is at, every step of the game, if the object player is there, try to move towards it. But we still need to give it one more variable. Well, we set a variable on our create event called SPD, which is given a number between 1 and 2, a float value. So we're saying move between the players, move towards point, players X, players Y, and at this speed. Why is it giving me an error? I think that's right. Move instance exists. Oh, exists. There we go. That's why. We have to type everything correctly. It's case sensitive. If I do a capital I, it's going to not know what that means. So it's another thing to pay attention to. So that's the error. Yeah, it should go away. Instance exists. We don't need that. If instance exists, object player. We need one more of these. Syntax, guys. We're going to get there. There we go. Okay, if the player exists, there, move towards it at that speed. All right, one problem down. We also want this to rotate, right? We learned one last time, right? Image angle equals, what should we set it to? We can give it a number between 0 and 360. Let's give it the direction. This is its built-in function, a built-in thing. So its direction is always gonna store a number between 0 and 360. So we're going to make the image turn whatever direction it's moving, and the direction will be set by this move towards point. So now it's going to look like it's going to look correct, I believe. We need to check its HP. So we'll do a conditional statement if HP is, we actually need two of them. We need to check its max HP too to see if it's above it, and we need to set it. But if its HP is less than or equal to 0, right? So if it's got no life left, then we can instance destroy. So if it's got no life left, it's going to die. We could do several things here. We can make a sound effect. I'll do a different one for sound effects and everything. So we'll make it simple. If it's got no life left, kill it. Move towards player and make sure that it rotates. So that should be about right. So let's do another thing. We're going to, the same thing we did with the bullet. We should probably do a different one first. Well, we'll just do this because I already know it. So if the player goes outside, so we're adding a new event and we're going to other and we're saying outside room. If this object ever gets outside the room, we're just going to have it kill itself. Instance underscore destroy. So if it ever goes out of bounds, it's going to just disappear. And nothing's going to happen. Like, we're not going to add any experience, which we're going to do later. We're not going to add any drops, which will be handled here, you know, if we kill it the right way. But this is just going to hard kill it and not give any rewards. It's just going to get rid of the object if for some reason it tweaks out and goes all the way outside of bounds. Okay, so we need to do something else. We need to make a collision event with the player, right? So there's a little thing you can do. Let's add an event and make a collision event with the player. So we're going to make sure that if it hits the player, it'll die, but it'll also deal damage to the player. So I'm not sure if we made HP for the player, but if not, we're going to do that real quick. So if it collides with the player, we don't have to code that, right? Because we're already checking in this event. We could put this, if place underscore meeting, we could kind of design this code inside the step event. But to make it simpler, we're just going to add event collision with the player, so we don't have to do that code. There's a thing called with, and this means you can kind of make a set of code to happen when it, or you can control the other event that it's colliding with right here. So basically with the object player, because we're colliding with the player, right? So with the player, what do we want to do? We want to reduce its HP, right? So let's first check to see if we already made that or not. So we're going to double click on object player. We never made the player's HP. So let's do the same thing. We'll go player HP equals 100. Player max HP equals 100. Actually, what we can do is do the same thing we did on the other thing. We'll say player's max HP is 100 and player's HP is player max HP. Also, we should name them the same just for camel case, just so that it's consistent. Because if we did capital on one of them and not the other, it would not. It would say undefined, basically. It would crash. So we've got HP here now. So we need to reduce the players. Also, we need to do a check. We'll do the same check on the player. So on the step event, if player HP is less than equal to 0, we're going to we'll destroy the player, instance underscore destroy. But that will actually kind of break the program, because you won't have any control. It'll just, and we don't have a game over screen yet. So we need to do, I think it's restart or replay, game restart. So if player HP is less than 0, destroy the player, but then restart the game. So that'll let us loop through without having to recompile every time. So that'll be fine, just like that. So we've got HP. We've got to check to see if our HP goes below 0. We're going to destroy the instance and restart the game. We've got let's go back to our enemy now. So with the player, when we actually do collide, we're going to control the event, right? So we don't actually, do we have to do object underscore player obj underscore player dot player HP minus, whatever, 25 or so? We might be able just to type player HP right here. Did I spell that wrong? What's my syntax error? Oh, okay. Equals. We have to set it to a value, right? So we're going to say its value equals its own value minus 25. We can also do minus equals 25. I believe that'll work. If not, we can go like this. We can go copy and then paste, and we can say equals itself minus 25, right? So I'm actually just curious though. I want to see if the minus or the minus equals work. It should work. I don't see why it wouldn't work. Minus equals 25. So we'll pick one or the other. You could do it either way. With programming like in GML, there's usually 10 ways to do the same thing. So it's really makes it kind of cool. You know, you can paint a landscape a million different ways, and it doesn't make really one way better than the other unless you can prove that it's better on memory efficiency or something. Anyway, with the player, we want to decrease his HP, and we don't have to handle the player dying here because every step the player's its own object is checking its HP, and if its HP is below 0, it'll die, or if it's equal to 0. So we also need to, okay, we already destroyed this one. We need a way now. We need a way for the bullet to collide with the object, right? With the enemy. So let's go to the bullets. Let's add an event and make a collision on the bullet with the enemy. And we'll say if well, we don't have to do if place meeting because it's already checking in the event. So if we're colliding, we're going to say with. We can always just do with other too. I think with other would work too. But we want to, actually we'll just do with other because I want to test to see if that'll work. That's another thing. When you use this keyword of other, it'll basically run this code on anything else that it collides with as long as it's checking. So this will work fine because we're automatically, this code will only run if we're colliding with the enemy and then with that enemy, so that'll work fine. We could, you know, optionally, like I said, there's many ways you can do this too. Both will be exactly the same. Let's do other just to make sure that it works. With other, we want to reduce its enemy, its HP, right? So let's go object underscore enemy dot HP minus or equals minus equals 25. And like I said, the other way you'd want to do this, or that you could do this, you probably figured it out already, is equals its own HP, obj underscore enemy dot HP minus 25. So either of these options should do the same thing. And by commenting it out, it's just ignoring that line of code. So we can come back and change it if we want to. Alright, I think we've set it up to where the bullets will hit the enemy and take its HP. We've set up the code so that the enemy will move towards the player. We've set up the code so that if the enemy collides with the player will take damage. And we've set up the code so that if the bullets collide with the enemies will take damage. We also set up the death code, so if any of the HPs go below 0, they'll die. So we need to test it out. The next thing I'd want to do is add sound effects, animations. Boom, we're dying so fast because we've got all these enemies and they're all moving towards the player super fast. So let's go ahead and go back to our map and let's select a bunch of these. By holding shift and left click, you can select multiples, and then I could just hit delete and get rid of all of them at the same time. I think that's good. We'll start with that many enemies. So it should take 4 bullets to kill an enemy, and it should take 4 of them hitting us to... Oh, we forgot to remove... we have to do instance destroy on the bullets, because the bullets are piercing. And every frame it's issuing damage, right? So on the bullets, we also have to do instance underscore destroy. Otherwise, one bullet will just hit them like 60 times or 100 times. It's not really well. You could do that with a laser, like a piercing laser. Have it do very, very, like maybe minus equals 1, and then just have it go through. So you could create different kinds of weapons like this too. But we want to destroy the bullets when it collides with the enemy. Also, I think we forgot to destroy the enemy when it collides with the player, right? So if it collides with the player, deal the damage and destroy the enemy. Instance underscore destroy itself. Okay, cool. Now, if the enemy collides with the player, it will be destroyed. So we should be able to destroy 3 of them by running into them. And then, you see how they're moving at different speeds too? Because we gave them that random value. Otherwise, they would all clump up. Okay, our bullets are still passing through for some reason, right? Let's take a look at that code. So our object bullet, when it collides with the other object enemy. Oh, okay, here's the problem. We're setting the destroy with the other. So we're saying when we hit the enemy, instantly kill them. So you could do like a headshot thing with that. But what we need to do is add a step. No, wait. Outside of, yes, outside of the with other, we're just going to do instant destroy. Oops, I forgot to copy that. We'll do instance underscore destroy. That's part of the fun of GameMaker Studio. You can accidentally create awesome features, and you can turn your bugs into features, you know, unintentional things. So it helps with creativity. When you make a mistake, try to turn that into something cool, like that you could actually use. So now when we collide with the enemy, we're going to basically reduce the player's... Wait, this is the bullet, right? Yeah, when we collide with the enemy, we're going to reduce the enemy's HP by 25 and destroy this object. Because we're not saying with other, we're just saying destroy it outside of these brackets. If we put this inside the brackets, you saw what happens. It kills the enemy in one frame. So, and not the bullet. So one bullet will just basically wipe out all of the enemies. This should work now. It's a learning process. There we go. Oh, wait. Sort of. What happened there? Oh, maybe they all have the same... Maybe they're all using... We need to create a spawner. We need to create a spawner event. So if I were to go to the map and basically delete all of these but one, then it would like take 3 bullets. Or take 4 bullets to kill it. Or it would kill us. For some reason our code isn't working right. So our object player our HP is less than or equal to 0, destroy on the step. That's right. And our player, if our HP is less than or equal to 0, destroy it and restart. Yes, that's right. On our bullet, that's working fine. That's working great. We also need to set a value of the bullet to be based off the bullet power. So we could do that too. So instead of minus 25, we can use bullet power. So we'll say OB. We could just say, since we're talking about with the other object enemy, let's try this. Object underscore enemy. Like I said, they both should have worked. With the enemy, make his HP minus equal bullet power. And this is a variable we defined in the create step. So we're going to basically deal damage based on this variable right here that we changed. And then destroy when it collides. I believe that's right. And for the player, why are we dying in one hit? That's the thing. Let's look at our enemy. If the enemy collides with... Oh, the same reason. The same reason, guys. We've made the same mistake twice. If we put that inside the brackets... No capitals. Destroy. Okay. So if the player... if the enemy collides with the player, do that. Deal damage to the player. And then destroy the enemy object, I believe. Let's test it out. Oh, cool. So that one enemy ran into us. If we had a draw text, we can see how much HP we have. We can make a health bar, which we're going to do. Um, so let's go ahead and try something else now. Let's go back to the map and let's go to the resources and let's put a few more enemies in here. Let's put 4 enemies. And let's space this out a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and save and play that. So we should be able to get hit by 3 of these and not die. But the 4th one should kill us and restart the game. So let's test that out first. 1, 2, 3. This should kill us. And it does. And it restarts the game. Code's working. Sweet. Now, we should be able to shoot that and not get a crash. Okay, here, we didn't get this yet, so I wanted to go over this. I'm glad this popped up. So when you get a code error, don't just hit abort and close it out. Look at the error. So it's going to tell you exactly where the problem's at. So we're saying we have a problem in the step of the object enemy event, right? So object bullet for object bullet. So variable object enemy dot bullet power was not set before we were reading it. So we need to set bullet power before it's being called. On that line, it'll even tell you. Okay, so I already know where that's at. So on the object bullet, we're saying when this is created, we're basically assigning bullet power. So that should work. Did we spell that wrong? Bullet power. Object underscore enemy dot bullet power. We'll say minus equals. I'm pretty sure you don't have to do that object enemy dot bullet power, but for some reason it gave me a crash. This might crash again. Let's test it real quick. I want to shoot the enemies and see what happens. A lot of it will be trial and error, and that's kind of the fun part, is you learn from your mistakes. Are we still running the program? Is that what the thing is? Play. There we go. Same thing, it's not a variable that it knows. Object enemy. Oh, the problem is because it's not on the enemy. The bullet power is set on the bullet. Object bullet. Okay. Object enemies dot HP minus equal the value of object bullet's bullet power. Might crash again. We might have to go equals itself minus that. There it goes. But for some reason, all of the objects are being destroyed at the same time. So we need to do something about that. Why are all the objects being destroyed at the same time? Maybe we have to use other right here. Not EV other. With the other. Because when we say with that, maybe that's controlling. Can we use other dot HP? I wonder if that'll work. This is probably going to crash. But we are going to learn if that works or not. Yeah, that doesn't work. Okay. HP object underscore obj underscore enemy dot. Did we use HP and max HP? Let's look at the enemy real quick. HP equals max HP, which is set to 100. Dun, dun, dun. So object enemy dot HP minus. Let's try doing it this way. Obj underscore enemy. So we're gonna say it equals itself dot HP minus bullet power, and we shouldn't actually need that, to be honest. It shouldn't, because it's referencing a variable on the bullet itself, so we shouldn't have to reference that object when we're talking about the same object. Bullet power is not set before reading. Now we could just control the bullet power there, but I know that this should work, so that's why it's driving me crazy. Bullet power. Is that capital? Yeah, bullet power. It should create this and do that when the bullet is created. And then this, so when it gets to the collision event, it should know what that is. That's so weird. Is that the same error we're getting? We might have to bypass this and I'll come back to it. But is it going to kill them all? It kills them all for some reason. Everything's working right except for some reason it's killing every single enemy. I think we need to make a spawner and then control it like by each enemy having its own. I wonder. And I know that that minus equals thing would work, so I'm kind of curious why it's doing that. We'll think for a second. Let me reference this other game I have open. How did I do it last time? Speed equals that on this step. Oh, wait a minute, because I have it different that way. Okay, here's the problem. Because when we're saying with other on the bullet, when we say with other, we're no longer in our own event. We're no longer in our own thing. So we have to reference the object bullet, because while we're in with other, we're not in the bullet object. We're in the other object. So we don't actually need obj underscore enemy right here. We can say with the other, HP equals, we could even do minus equals. Minus equals the bullet's bullet power. So when we hit the other, when this bullet collides with the enemy, set the HP of that enemy to the power of the bullet. So it's like everything is reversed when you're talking about referencing inside the other, the with other. I didn't mean to close that. So that might work. It probably will, but I'm wondering why it's destroying like all of them when I kill one of them. There we go. I didn't have it coded right. Hallelujah, guys. We figured it out. So through that process of elimination, and you notice it's taken a lot more than 4 bullets, right? It's actually taking, they've got 100 HP. If we're going to draw their HP bars next, so you can see that it's actually dealing damage over time. So every time a bullet hits them, it's dealing their bullet power to their max HP. So we're saying every bullet is 3, so it would take like 33 bullets or so to kill the enemy, which has 100 HP. So I think that's going to do it for this tutorial. It kind of got a little messy, but I think that's good to see when you get errors, so you can kind of, it's more realistic, to be honest. You're going to get errors, and you're going to have to reference the help file. Being a game dev is about finding solutions to problems that you have. You're going to encounter problems. It's like nothing but problems. It's about if you can find a solution. And we found a solution, and we fixed it, and we got it running. So I'm really happy with that. The next thing I'm going to do is probably add, if I hit F5, will that restart? No. I'm going to probably add a key that will automatically restart the game. So we press a button, it'll just restart it. I'm going to make an enemy spawner so the enemies just keep coming on their own. And we're going to make HP bars. So maybe all of that will be in the next video, or at least some of that will be in the next video. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy these GameMaker Studio 2 tutorials, please let me know with a thumbs up. I appreciate each and every one of you for watching. And if you're considering getting GameMaker Studio 2, I highly recommend it. It's so much fun, and it's really rewarding when you can actually overcome obstacles. So it's a little bit harder than a GameMaker, I know a lot of you are really good with GameMaker. I'm sorry, a little bit harder than RPG Maker, and I know many of you are really good with RPG Maker. But you know, don't put yourself in one little hole. Branch out and try different things. Don't quit RPG Maker. I'm not gonna ever quit RPG Maker. I'm still gonna go back to it. I never even stop running it. It's up all the time. You know, I always mess with it. But you know, branch out and try different things. You know, try to learn new things. If you really want to make games for money in the future, you have to never stop learning. And what if you get good at one thing and you get a job offer, but they say, oh yeah, well, we don't use that engine, we use this. And you're like, oh, I've never used that before, I don't know. Well, then you could either not get the job just because you're not willing to learn it, or you could have dabbled in a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then when it comes to getting a job offer, you'll be like, oh yeah, I used that before, and you can kind of, you know, have a little bit of confidence for that interview or whatever. So I think it's a wise decision, especially since it's free, guys. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I have tons of RPG Maker content if you're into that, and I'm going to be putting out a lot of GameMaker Studio 2 stuff. And lots of trial and error videos, but I think I'm going to be a little bit structured in the future, and we're going to learn how to do all kinds of stuff. We're going to catch everybody up. We're going to learn programming. We're going to learn how to use Photoshop more and how to make simple art assets. We're going to use the animation editor. We're going to make sound effects in Audacity. Lots of different things that we're going to do tile sets. We're going to make our own simple tile set. I'm going to teach you how to use layering. I'll show you the other project I have open right here. This was last month's project that I was messing with. I have tons of stuff to show you guys that I was working on. I made a spawner. I've got spell casting. I made an intro thing that's not super great, but it's kind of cool. It messed it up when I installed Windows 10 because I made this in Windows. It showed the picture all the way across, but I'm going to get back to that. But see, kind of move around. I drew this sprite myself. Well, not drawn it, but I made it myself, and I've got collisions down too over here. I don't have the collision boxes in the whole map, but I've tested them right here. So we're going to do something with tile sets, and we're going to do HP bars for shooting our spells, and when we get hit, got life bars. This shouldn't be moving around, but I'm still working on it. It's because I have the draw code inside the draw GUI step. So that's why, because this worked fine for the draw step, but I'm moving everything to the GUI because I want this to be above the enemies. You see how it draws on top? It's in the GUI. Otherwise, if the enemy's right here, you'll see that the enemy's above the health meters, and I don't want that. But anyway, there's lots of stuff to do, guys. Hopefully you enjoy this series, and let me know if you have any suggestions in the comments. I'm going to follow some sort of structure, but I will listen to the comments, and if you guys need help with something, I will be willing to help. Also, I keep forgetting to plug it. I never ever plug it. But I have a Discord channel, guys, right here. It's in the description of this video. So come join the default font channel. We got RPG Maker chat, GameMaker Studio chat, special requests. If you have art that you want to show off, people post their art and their maps and stuff. Come check it out. We got a Meeb channel, so yeah, there's that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you guys in the Discord, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.